The New England natural landscape holds many wonders, but some of the most interesting and endangered of these ecosystems are vernal pools.
Hi, and welcome to Certifying a Vernal Pool. If you've ever been to a vernal pool, then you know that these natural habitats are host to a variety of plants and animals that can be found nowhere else. There are organisms that can only breed and only survive in vernal pools.
I said that's way too loud.
Vernal pools are not protected under the Wetland Protection Act in the same way that most wetlands are. They require special protection under the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program through a process called certification. That's where you come in. You have the ability to certify a vernal pool that you find, and that's what this video is about.
We'll show you the characteristics of vernal pools and the species that inhabit them, and we'll show you the forms and the documentation you'll need to provide in order to certify a vernal pool. There are several things you'll need to collect for your pool to be considered for certification in Massachusetts. The first is a form that you'll have to complete in entirety, the Vernal Pool Field Observation Form, available at a Massachusetts Division of Fisheries and Wildlife office, or by download from the internet at websites like www.vernalpool.org.
This form may look confusing, but it's set up so that anyone can certify a vernal pool. If you follow the step-by-step instructions on the form, you can easily find out what information you need to know and where it needs to go on the form.
The next items you'll need are maps, both a USGS topographic map and one other map. This second map can be one you create yourself. Next, you'll need to provide evidence of the specialized species that inhabit vernal pools. Having a good field guide, like this one, might help you to get to know vernal pools a little bit better. A vernal pool is defined as a confined basin depression with no permanently flowing outlet. It holds water for only part of the year and goes through seasonal changes. During the fall, leaves from the surrounding forest collect in the basin and provide the rich source of nutrients for the intense production that characterizes a vernal pool's most active period. The energy from this production is eventually redistributed back to the forest as the animals from the pool become food for others. During the winter, the pool fills with snow. The surface freezes over with a thin layer of ice. In the spring, the ice begins to melt around the edges, and the water level rises with the snowmelt. When the weather becomes warmer, the pool begins to slowly dry out. This process makes it impossible for fish to survive in vernal pools. What this means for the animals of vernal pools is that they are able to breed with much less predation, and therefore a greater chance of success. It is the species of vernal pools that make them such unique and valuable habitats, and they are the only way to prove that a vernal pool exists.
There are 3 methods of certifying a vernal pool, and all of them use wildlife as evidence. They are the obligate species method, the facultative species method, and the dry pool method.
Obligate species are animals that must use a vernal pool to breed or survive. Their presence proves a vernal pool exists. Examples include wood frogs, fairy shrimp, and certain kinds of salamanders. By the obligate species method, you will prove that obligate species are breeding in your vernal pool. Facultative species use vernal pools to breed, but can breed in other wetlands as well. Examples include green frogs and certain kinds of turtles. The facultative species method shows that the pool hosts facultative species, but no permanent fish population. The dry pool method shows a vernal pool with no standing water, along with breeding evidence of certain kinds of invertebrates, like this case made by a caddisfly larva.
Whichever method you use, you must also provide information on the basic physical characteristics of your vernal pool. The first step to certifying your vernal pool is finding out exactly where it is and locating it on a map.
You'll need a U.S. Geological Survey topographic map with the location of the pool clearly marked. This map must be of the right size and scale. We're using a 7.5 minute by 7.5 minute quadrangle that we bought at a local camping supply store. You will also need another map which shows where the vernal pool is. You can make this one yourself using compass bearings and walking distances, or you can use an aerial photograph. Next, you'll need to write out directions to the pool so that an official should be able to find it later if needed.
The second part of the form asks for the dates of your observations.
It's a good idea to take notes about the weather and the pool conditions. As you track the progress of your vernal pool, be sure not to miss the great night when the amphibians make their annual migration to the pool to mate. It always happens on a rainy night in early spring. You may be lucky enough to find salamanders mating or wood frogs performing their mating chorus.
These events can be used as evidence of vernal pool life, which you'll keep track of in the third part of the form.
After the night of the annual migration, spermatophores left by spotted salamanders, an obligate species, may be found on leaves in the pool bottom. Mark this observation on your form in the obligate species area. As you follow the development of the vernal pool species, note the key life stages as time goes on. 2 or more egg masses are valid proof of vernal pool species. Here, multiple egg masses of spotted salamanders are seen underwater. Wood frogs also deposit egg masses, which develop into tadpoles after a few weeks. As the tadpoles mature, each major life stage is another potential source of evidence of a vernal pool. The obligate species method of certifying a vernal pool requires only one obligate species for proof. Wood frogs and spotted salamanders will work, but so will fairy shrimp, another obligate species. The eggs of fairy shrimp are adapted to withstand repeated dry years and to hatch when conditions are right. As an obligate species, the presence of fairy shrimp proves a vernal pool's existence. By the facultative species method, 2 or more acceptable indicators will also suffice as evidence of a vernal pool, so keep track of them as well. This caddisfly larva has built a protective case around its soft body. It continually adds new material to the case as it forages for food. This activity should be noted on the form along with the date. The case left by the caddisfly as it leaves the drying pool can also be used for the dry pool method of certification. All your evidence of species should be documented with photographs, videotape, or audio tape, depending on which method you use. The form explains what each method requires, but all need at least some photographs. With the obligate species method, you should provide a good photograph of the pool holding water, and at least one showing breeding activity of obligate species. We used photos of the spermatophores and egg masses of spotted salamanders. the egg masses and tadpoles of wood frogs, and fairy shrimp as well. With the facultative species method, you need photos of the pool when it is filled with water and when it is dry, as well as photos of facultative species, like this caddisfly larva. With the dry pool method, you need a photo of the dry pool, along with photos of dry pool indicator species, such as this caddisfly larva's case. Make sure you date and sign all photographs that you submit.
Next, you need to collect all the required maps that show where your vernal pool is. You need a USGS topographic map, plus another map.
An aerial photograph taken during the spring shows the vernal pool filled with water while the trees still have no leaves. Aerial photographs of Massachusetts are available for download from the internet at the Massachusetts Geographic Information System's website. Other maps can be helpful as well. A sketch map, for example, shows the basic dimensions of the vernal pool, the ways to get there, and major features surrounding it. It can include just about any identifying landmarks that might help someone else to find the pool. Vegetation types and other natural elements are also useful. Another piece of information is an assessor's map, which you can find in the town's assessor's office. It shows who owns the land where the vernal pool lies, as well as adjacent properties. We knew that our vernal pool lay close to a road, and that power lines were nearby. We traced the outline of the plot of land and included landmarks and information about the owner in our sketch. While the assessor's map is not required for certification, it can be helpful as well. Other optional information, such as the property owner and rare wetland species information, can help to better protect the pool.
Finally, you need to provide your name and address and sign and date the form. By the end of this process, you should have a packet of information, including the completed certification form, the required maps, and photographs of the vernal pool's species and physical characteristics.
Send your packet to the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program at the address on the form.
The more evidence and observations you collect, the more solid the record of the vernal pool's history, and the more worthy of protection it becomes. Certifying a vernal pool is fun and interesting, but it's also important to our environment. The more you learn about vernal pools, the better their chances of protection.
Heather, look at the camera like you're ready to catch something. Come towards the camera, okay? Hold on.